This is Chris Christensen from the Amateur Traveler coming to you from Montgomery, Alabama.
I'm standing on Court Square in front of this beautiful fountain that is on the site of what used to be a spring. This spring is the spot where two cities joined, the spot where East Alabama and New Philadelphia merged to form Montgomery. It's also the spot where the market would have been, which would have included the slave market in the early 1800s. If I turn to my right and look down the street, I can see the Capitol building, which was also the Capitol building that was the first capital of the Confederacy, where President Jefferson Davis took his oath of office. The tall building behind the fountain is the spot that used to be the Exchange Hotel. This is where the first delegates of the Confederate States debated whether to fire on Fort Sumter. When they made the decision, they came across the street to a building behind me, which was the telegraph office, and sent the telegraph that started the Civil War. This is also the same spot where in 1955, a woman, a seamstress named Rosa Parks, walks out of one of these buildings after a long day of work and boards a bus on this particular corner. By the time she gets 2 blocks away, she is arrested because she refuses to give up her seat to a white man when asked by the driver. Very quickly, Montgomery starts a bus boycott, originally for 1 day, and they get a young black preacher by the name of Martin Luther King, whose church is just to the right here of the Capitol building down the street. They asked him to lead what becomes the Montgomery Improvement Association, which will do a bus boycott for over a year. He adds a new voice to what becomes the modern civil rights movement, asking questions like, if not here, then where? If not us, then who? If not now, then when? But these are the same Capitol steps where in 1963, Governor George Wallace would stand and say, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. It would be a long and bitter struggle. But back down this street in 1965, the same street that Rosa Parks' bus was on, came the marchers from Selma, who were marching for the ability to register to vote, peacefully and freely, and they marched back down to these same Capitol steps. This is Montgomery, Alabama. There's a new museum in Montgomery, Alabama, the Legacy Museum, which was founded by the Equal Justice Initiative, and this museum, I wish I could show you the inside, but I can't, is a very powerful museum that deals with the history of slavery, the history of unequal rights, the history of lynching and terrorism, the history of civil rights, and also the modern issue of incarceration. 1 in every 3 young black men should expect to go to jail.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler coming to you from the National Memorial to Peace and Justice, also known as the Lynching Memorial in Montgomery, Alabama. Each of the large metal objects behind me is a county in the United States that has 1 or more, in some cases a dozen, of different lynchings in that time period, especially between the Civil Rights Movement and the Civil War.
For more about Montgomery, Alabama, go to amateurtraveler.com and read about the Legacy Museum as well as many other things going on in Montgomery.